Welcome to Revitalize and Replant with Mark Clifton, where we equip pastors to take their churches from declining to thriving by pointing them to a new future and a new hope. Join us weekly for encouragement and practical advice in your pastoring journey. Revitalize and Replant with Mark Clifton, ladies and gentlemen.
I just knocked my microphone down.
Oh, no.
You got it? You got it there?
It's a technical thing.
I got it. I got my microphone back up now.
My microphone? Is that what you said?
Microphone. Test. Can you hear me? Can you hear this? Test. Is that all right?
This, ladies and gentlemen, is why it's called Revitalize and Replant with Mark Clifton. We want to make sure that everybody knows who's at fault here. So there's Mark Clifton. There's Mark Hallock.
Hey, guys.
Right there. I'm Dan Hurst. Kyle Behrman is sitting over there running the controls, shaking his head, going, why did he touch the microphone?
He's in the church sound booth back there.
And that's the thing. The church sound guys always say, don't touch the microphone.
And the guys up there going, boom, boom, boom. Can you hear it?
Can you hear me? They always do that.
Is this on? Can you hear me? Sounds like your church.
All right. Let's talk today about leadership. We talked about, by the way, I want to reflect back on something that we just finished doing, which was a series on shepherding. And we talked a little bit about leading in that, but kind of a flowing from those thoughts, we got to thinking there are different kinds of leaders, really. And so we thought, let's ask the question, what kind of leader are you? And Hallock came up with this idea that there are basically three kinds, and only one of them is good.
Well, that's true.
That's right.
Two you want to avoid,
yeah,
and one you want to lean into.
That's right.
Should I give a quick overview of the three?
No, let's just start with the first one.
Start with the first one. Okay, so I will frame it like this way. There are two ditches that you're going to want to avoid, and then there's a leadership style right down the middle.
All right.
Okay, so let's start with ditch number one.
Ditch number one
is what we would call authoritarian leadership or authoritarian. I think the word.
And I will tell you right now, somebody has come to your mind right away.
Oh, as soon as you say that,
what comes to your mind? Like, how would you guys describe authoritarian?
I could name names. Man,
okay, describe this leader?
Well, I do think there was a time in the 70s and 80s, particularly when the church growth movement began to really take hold, and we had some rapidly growing churches in those decades, and mega churches were really coming into their own in the 70s and 80s. There was a proliferation of mega churches. And for many times, the mega church model was the staff-led church, pastor-staff-led church. You'd get a pastor who was a really gifted communicator and visionary, and then he would surround himself with an A-team. I mean, with the absolute SEAL Team 6 of staff, right? Yeah. Work really hard to bring in the best staff. And so everything in that church was basically pastor-run and staff-led, right?
Okay.
That was the CEO model. In fact, you guys, I mean, I'm seriously, when I was in the 80s, when I was in my 30s and 20s planning churches, we had church, we called it MBO, management by objective. I mean, I went to church conferences where I was taught to do church leadership management by objective, meaning it was the most effective way. It was just like a CEO. You design a plan and you run that plan and you stick with that plan.
Very pragmatic.
Very pragmatic.
Yeah.
And here's the deal about church growth stuff. It often works.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Because it would work if you were building an Amway dealership or building a church.
Yeah.
It's all about attracting people, organizing people, promoting people, leading. Great leaders lead organizations. You and I both know there are so many churches out there that are completely apostate, but got thousands of people in them.
Yeah, sure.
So you can do that.
Oh, yeah.
But I went to conferences and even Baptist conferences where we were taught MBO, management by objective. And to some degree, not entirely, I don't mean to throw this on Rick Warren that much, but even the purpose-driven church, to some degree, was about, here's the strategy, we run this thing. Well, in that case, you got to have a leader to run it. Yeah. And so the pastor became the CEO.
Right.
And if you take that to the extent, which many did, the CEO runs things. Yeah. You don't question the CEO.
Right.
Otherwise, he's not the chief executive officer.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Sure.
It's not, you're not. And so what happened is over time, he became very authoritarian. And here's the deal about authoritarians. Mussolini made the trains run on time. I mean, authoritarians get things done.
Yeah, they get things
Authoritarians get the bills paid.
They get results.
Authoritarians get results.
Yeah.
And in an age, especially during the megachurch era, where results were really what we looked at in terms of numbers and buildings and budgets, authoritarians could get it done.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, many times they left in their wake a lot of damage, but they still got things done.
Yeah.
And I think, unfortunately, we looked at some authoritarian kinds of pastors as the real, nobody got in their way.
Yeah.
Now, Hurst, you had some ideas. Don't name names. I won't let you name names.
Oh, man.
I know who you are.
Rats.
So just come up with a blank name. But talk about some authoritarian pastors you and I have known.
Well, one of the things that there's always an element of fear.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And that, and it's usually fear on the flock side.
Yes.
They're afraid of the pastor.
That's right.
And it's not that, oh, yeah, he's a friendly guy, we play golf and everything, but there's still that little twinge of fear, like I don't want to offend him, I don't want to get him mad,
Don't question him.
Yeah, don't question him.
Yep.
He knows what he wants, and okay, pastor, if that's what you want. And what happens is that pastor, that type of person, an authoritarian pastor, is, I call them ivory tower pastors, but it's the idea that I am surrounded, I am protected by my henchmen who actually do the work. Yeah. I am just overseeing their work to make sure that it gets done. And like you said, in many cases it gets done, but it's not permanent.
And we don't need to name names here, but there's been some very high profile young men.
Yeah.
Not old church mega guys from
That's
the
right.
80s,
Yeah.
but young guys
Younger
from the
guys,
2000s
sure.
who planted huge mega churches and then got fired, not for moral sexual immorality, but for just being hard to get along with.
Oh, yeah.
Because what happened was they got success, they were successful. And some even said things like, not only do you need to get off the bus, but if you're not doing the right thing, the bus will run over you.
Yeah,
we'll throw you off and run you over. Because we got to get to where we're going, and you're in the way. And that mentality worked to grow the church numerically and budget-wise and all those kinds of things. But what happened was when people began to question this pastor's authorities or these pastors' authorities, there are so many people lined up who want to be in this pastor's area of influence that he can just remove the ones who disagree with him and bring in ones who do.
Well, and it's usually just a matter of time before you move very quickly from the inner circle to the outer circle.
It
happens all the time. In fact, it's interesting. I have a list of pastors over the last 10 years, and I've shared this maybe before, that I actually keep track of who have been disqualified from ministry. And I've got almost 70 names now.
Wow.
These are pastors, most of whom I've known or have been influenced by. And 27 of them are out of ministry because of this very thing. 27 examples of they were fired ultimately because of authoritarian leadership.
But before they were fired, they were very successful.
Oh, yeah. All of them are big churches. They're all big churches. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like there's something weird about us as people. We're drawn to strong leadership.
Yeah.
But some people are drawn to dictators.
Well,
they're just drawn to it.
It comes back to the business world. I mean, and I've had people, and I've been in some churches like this that had authoritarian pastors, and I hear people say things like, "Well, they're getting things done," and
people are showing up.
Yeah, people are here, and well, we did make our budget, and that sort of thing. And what they're doing is they're likening it to a successful business.
Yeah, exactly.
And so for the business world. And let's face it, our churches are made up of people in the business world. That's their lifestyle, Monday through Friday.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what they're used to. That's what they see happening. And if they see a church functioning in the success pattern of the business that is successful, then they assume that everything is okay.
No, that's right. And so we're going to move on to the next one. But I do think the overarching question is, what does Jesus want? We talk about Jesus has a plan for every church. Yeah, guess what? Jesus has a plan for every pastor.
Yeah.
And I don't think authoritarian this kind of leadership is Jesus' plan for any pastor.
So what's the other ditch?
So here's the other ditch. If that's one ditch, the other ditch is what I would just call disengaged leadership. Now, with each of these, and you mentioned it, for the authoritarian leader, it creates a culture of fear in the people. For the disengaged leader, it creates a culture of floundering in the people.
And the disengaged is one who probably likes to preach. He finds meaning in preaching, and he likes to study for preaching. He likes to teach.
Loves it. Probably loves
teaching.
it. Yep.
He likes to go to conferences.
Loves to read.
He loves to read, and he loves to be alone.
That's right.
All right.
He doesn't want to be with people very
He
much.
desires solitude,
Yeah.
right? And he feels like he deserves solitude because he's carrying so much weight of the flock.
Yep.
And he doesn't really find engaging with people on an ongoing basis enjoyable and meaningful and that kind of thing. Now, you can be an introvert and still find meaning in people.
Absolutely.
I don't want to get into
Absolutely.
that. You
Yep.
can. Or you can be an extrovert and just manipulate people.
That's right.
So I'm not talking introvert and extrovert here.
Yep.
I'm talking about a pastor who I know when I went to Warnell, a pastor before me or so, maybe two before me, I'll make it a little less conspicuous. Maybe three before me, who knows. But the older church secretary, she said, he was a really good preacher. She said he came in every morning at 9 a.m., went in his office and locked the door. And he didn't come out till noon. And I wasn't supposed to bother him between 9 and noon unless it was an emergency. And then he would go to lunch, and then I would never see him again the rest of the day.
Wow.
And it was kind of like, he was just away from the people, right?
Yep.
Well, the church declined and that kind of thing. But he was a great preacher and a great teacher. He just didn't want to engage with people.
Yeah, that's right.
Because people are challenging, and they're messy, and sheep smell, and you get in their lives, and sometimes they're disengaged because they don't know how to engage.
Yes.
And they don't know how to lead.
They don't know how to lead.
And they're insecure about that. Authoritarians are insecure. That's why they're authoritarian.
Yep.
Disengaged are insecure. That's why they're disengaged.
Yeah,
so I
that's
think
right.
insecurity comes from a lot of it.
Yep, and I think, too, being self-aware, again, with all this, is where maybe we fall or what tendencies we have. But a disengaged leader, it can be a real challenge in a revitalization, replant work. Because if there's anything these people need, it is an engaged leader. Not only engaged with them, but engaged in the vision of the church. Pastor, we need you to lead us. We don't need you to just hang out in your office. We need you to be passionate about what God can do here. We need you to build relationships with the community and help us connect with the community.
Engage in the community. He
Engagement.
needs to be at the county. He needs to be
Absolutely.
if you're in a normative-sized town or a smaller town especially, you need to be in the city. You need to be in the city council meetings. You need to be in the school board meetings.
All of it.
You need to go to the games, the basketball games and the football games. You need to go check out all the nonprofits in your community. Those who feed the homeless, those who feed the elderly, those who deal with children who are being abused, and go find out all the nonprofits in the community and learn about them and find ways to how your church can serve them so that you're known in the community.
That's right.
I mean, you got to engage your community as well as engage your church.
That's exactly right.
Your people.
Yep. And that takes time. That takes intentionality. I tell our guys, listen, you want to meet, here's your goal in terms of reaching a community. You want to make as many friends in this community as possible. And what I mean by that is it should be a rare day you don't make a new friend. It should be a rare day, whether it's at where you're going to eat lunch intentionally, whether it's the bookstore you stop by, the church you don't just drive by, you pop in and encourage that pastor. I mean, you got to take your eyes off me. I'm here to love a community and a church. And I've got a long haul vision for this. The guy, we were with the pastor last night who's been in the same small community for over 40 years.
Yeah.
And I'm driving in the car with him, and he's saying, the last few years I've done, he's crazy. I don't know how many years, but he said nearly 200 funerals, and none of them are from our church.
Right.
It blew me away.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm going, dude, this guy is seen as the shepherd of this whole community.
Well,
and I'll tell you, it doesn't happen by him just staying in his office all day, every day.
I think one of the biggest compliments I ever saw somebody give a pastor was I was meeting with a client, actually, and we were having lunch. And we were in this little small restaurant. And he and I were talking, and we were just talking about business. And this guy walked in, and he said, "Hey, pastor, And the guy came over and talked, and this is he introduced me and so forth and so on. Then he went on his way. And I said, he's your pastor? And he said, yeah. He said, yeah, he's my preacher. I said, what church do you go to? And he said, I don't go to church.
Huh.
But that was his
Isn't that
pastor.
interesting? Yeah, totally. That's right.
that was and that's the same thing about your church. I think is your church needs to be your community's church, even if your people don't go to the church. They need to consider it as their church, and if something was wrong with it, they would miss it.
Yeah, I love that. That's exactly right. So, guys, there's two ditches. So, on the one ditch, we want to avoid authoritarian style of leadership, which creates a culture of fear. The other ditch would be disengaged leadership, which creates a culture of, I think, floundering of the people. We don't know what we're going, what we're doing.
Yeah, and without an engagement, we did the whole series on shepherding. Without engaging in people's lives, you don't know where they are spiritually. You don't know what their family's about. And it just creates this place where nobody really knows what's going on.
Totally.
And I've been in so many churches where people don't really know what's going on.
That's right.
They don't really where we're going, why we're here.
They become apathetic, frustrated.
And who wants to be part of anything apathetic?
No.
And in many ways, let's be honest, for all the damage that authoritarian leadership can provide, to some people it's more attractive than apathetic leadership.
Yeah. It seems they care about
something. At least I know we're going somewhere.
Right.
But here I don't see where we're going anywhere at all.
That's right.
And disengaged is. And here's the other thing, guys. As a church begins to decline and have problems and grow older, it is so easy to just get so discouraged that you disengage.
Yeah.
Satan's number one tool in his use against pastors is depression and discouragement. Even those pastors who cross the line and fall into moral failure, the majority of them were dealing with discouragement and depression even before that happened. And you can be depressed in a growing church. It doesn't matter. But in a declining church, it really can get to you after a while because your whole sense of worth is caught up in that, and fewer people every week and all those kinds of things. And Jesus said, I will build my church and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. So Satan knows he has no defense against the church of Jesus Christ. And Paul writes about the armor of God, and he says the shield of faith that can withstand every arrow of Satan. So Satan knows he has no weapon that can penetrate the armored Christian. So if Satan has no defense against the church and no weapon against the armored Christian, what's he going to do? He's going to get the pastor so discouraged and despondent that he never storms the gates of hell and he never puts on the armor of God because he's so discouraged.
That's right.
And when you get discouraged, you withdraw and you go alone. And again, the Sunday night of the resurrection, it didn't look real good for the church. They're all in the upper room behind locked doors, and Jesus appears in their midst, shows them his hands and his side, and they rejoice, and they're full of joy because of the resurrected Lord. Do you know who is not in the upper room? Thomas. He's the only one missing. And remember, Thomas said, if he goes to Jerusalem and die, let's go too, because I want to die if he dies. Thomas, no doubt, was so despondent over the death of Jesus, he didn't even hang out with the rest of the disciples that Sunday night. He was alone. One of the ways you know you are a disengaged pastor, if you become so depressed, you don't want to hang out with other pastors. You don't want to go to any other meetings.
You're isolated.
You're isolated.
Yep.
And when you're isolated, you're not armored up. And Satan has you where he wants you, brothers. This is spiritual warfare. Yep. You got to fight for your joy. You got to fight for your church. Yep. You got to fight for your family. And so you're going to have to realize this isolation and withdrawing is not healthy.
Amen.
And I'm not a leader because of it. But I'm telling you, it's what many of us do. You're right. It's the total opposite of authoritarianism, and they both lead nowhere.
That's right. Yeah. So there's a middle way. There's a middle way. I think this is the right way, if there is a right way, for these three for sure. And that's what I would just call directive leadership, which creates a culture of flourishing in the people, which is what we want. We want to see God's people flourish.
How is directive different than authoritative?
Yeah, well, that's a good question, because I think a lot of people think because we have a pastor who's a directive leader that he's by nature authoritarian. I think some of that is because of the bad models we've seen of so much authoritarian leadership that we just assume anybody who takes initiative and is passionate must be authoritarian, because we just don't see good models of leadership. But at the same time, a directive leader, again, in a contrast to the disengaged leader, a directive leader is a pastor, leader in the church who loves people, who cares about the mission, who believes in the mission, and wants to not just see the people flounder, but actually brings direction and mobilizes people in their giftings to be part of this mission and helps direct them. And Hurst and I were talking about that last night, of the power of helping your people identify their gifts that God's given them and then unleash them to do ministry for the kingdom. A directive leader gets that, and they're passionate about it, and they make it happen. So again, I think the goal ultimately is to be a directive leader. That's not a passive leader. It's not an authoritarian. It's this leading with a heart like Christ, but also leaning into the gifting of saying, you know what, we've got to take these people somewhere.
Well, you just nailed it with that phrase, taking our people. It's not telling them.
Taking.
It's taking them.
That's good.
And I don't think as a pastor I can tell people, you
guys go do that.
Yeah, it's not that at all. It's what I used to do mission trips all the time. I'd take a couple of mission trips a year, and it was always those situations where I would take people on mission trips, many of them who had never been on a mission trip. And of course, they were frightened. They wanted to go. They were passionate about it, but they didn't know what to do, didn't know what to expect. And when they encountered some certain conflicts on the mission, they didn't know what to do. Well, I could have told them.
Yeah.
But instead, by being with them, they succeeded.
That's
and
right.
then it became a passion for them, to continue their mission. And as pastors, if we take our people instead of tell them how to do it, if we take them there and we've got our arm around them and we're loving them into this successful life, it not only changes their life, it changes the lives of the people that they connect with.
That's right. Yep. We have to model it. We've got to take people with us. We need to show them. If you lead in that way, the culture of your church will change, and people will come alive, and the mission will move forward.
And we said that authoritative and disengaged, basically the foundation of those both are insecurity.
Yeah.
And in the authoritative, you're feeding off of your people.
Yep.
You get your power from your people doing what you tell them to do. And in the disengaged, you're almost afraid of your people and what they might do to you. And actually, the basis of it comes that your self-worth, your value doesn't come from your congregation, either what they do to you or what they don't do to you. It comes from what Christ has already accomplished for you on your behalf.
Amen.
So you find your worth at the cross, and that's where you have the fullness with which to direct and lead healthily.
I love it.
Unless you find your worth at the cross, you're always going to be either trying to be too controlling or too fearful of people.
That's right.
But if you know who you are in Jesus, you can lead faithfully.
I love it. It's great.
And cause them to live that kind of life.
Absolutely.
Also. You don't want to produce authoritative people or disengaged people. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. It's always a blessing to do these podcasts and to hear from you. By the way, if you connect with us on Facebook, you can leave messages and share ideas and send messages to us direct or post them there. We'd love to hear from you. We really would. And we'd love to know if you have some ideas, things that you'd like for us to talk about on the podcast, because Lord knows half the time we don't know.
We don't know what we're talking about.
So, but let us know. Thanks to the North American Mission Board for making this possible, and thanks to you for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for joining us today on Revitalize and Replant. This podcast is brought to you by the North American Mission Board, where we help dying or struggling churches regain health for the glory of God and the good of their communities. If you found this conversation helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform. To learn more about becoming a replanting pastor or to explore resources about revitalization for your own church, visit churchreplanters.com.